Guys, I'm here, I want to share my story. I want to take you through a journey that I went through as a little kid to get to where I'm at today. Okay, I grew up not knowing my father. My father's Nigerian. He got deported back while my mother was pregnant. My mother being First Nations from Saskatchewan, my mother was part of the residential school system. How many people in here know somebody that's been through the residential school system? A lot of us, okay? So a lot of us have stories. This is my story, okay? Growing up, I grew up in Edmonton, Alberta. I was raised in Edmonton. A couple people? Okay. Well, I live in Vancouver full-time now. I don't like shoveling snow. I did have to put a raincoat on though. I'm still getting used to that, but I do live in Vancouver full-time. But I was raised in Edmonton, guys. I grew up very poor. My mother was a drug addict, okay? I'm gonna rewind it back a little bit and talk a little bit about my mother. The things that my mother had to struggle with, the things that my mother had to deal with. Okay, being in the residential school system was an absolutely rough time, not just for my mother, but for our people. At that time, my mother was left-handed. My mother would tell me stories that she would get hit. She would get hit with a strap for writing with her left hand. My mother had a medical condition that she could not control. She would always wet the bed. There was nothing she could do about it. She couldn't stop it. So what they would do is they'd make my mother stand in the middle of the room, just like I'm right here in front of everybody else. They would make my mother put that sheet on that she had peed on over her head to be made some kind of an example of. Guys, this is real. A lot of us, almost everybody put their hand up when they said they have somebody that went through the residential school system. I'm sure maybe not everybody's story is like my mother's, but I can almost guarantee there's a whole lot of that. Not only that, but my mother was sexually abused throughout this process, throughout being in the residential school system. Coming out of the residential school system, my mother did not trust anybody. She had issues she needed to deal with, but she could not deal with them. She did not know how to reach out for help. Guys, can we close those doors in the back, please? It's just pretty distracting. Thank you. So my mother did not know how to reach out. She did not trust, especially the white person. She did not trust them at all. So what did my mom turn to? My mom turned to drugs and alcohol. That was what she used to cope with the pain. And as we all know, that is not the correct source. That is not the proper healing, but that's all my mother knew. I came into the world into a broken home, not knowing my father, living on welfare, didn't know where I was going to get my next meal, because my mom would use our little welfare checks and go buy some drugs, shoot it up in her arms. That's what my mother did. I know my mother loved me. My mother loved me to death. She just did not know how to be a mother. Growing up, all I wanted more was to be loved. I wanted to be loved so bad. I wanted to be loved by my mother, but more importantly, I wanted to have some male figure in my life, somebody that I could call dad. Guys, there are many instances, there are many times throughout my life where my mom would have men in her life and I looked to them, and I can recall this one instance where I went to this man and I said, "Can I call you dad?" He might have been in my mom's life for 3 weeks. I'll remember this moment for the rest of my life. This man looked me in the face and said, "No, you are not my son." For a young man, that's all I wanted, was to have somebody to love me and somebody I could look up to. And that man, boom, no, you can't call me son, or you can't call me dad. I was faced with rejection, guys. It hurt. It absolutely sucked. Throughout my story, some of you guys might be saying, "Hey, JR, I've experienced that. I'm going through that right now." I'm here to tell you guys today that there is more to life. You have to make a choice. We all have choices in life. So as I'm continuing my search of trying to find somebody that I can look up to, my mother is still dealing with her addictions, and she's now leaving me over at people's places. My mother would often say, "JR, I'll see you tomorrow morning." Tomorrow morning turned into another day, into 3 days, until I remember this one time my mother was gone for a whole week. I would often pick up the phone and try and call my mom. And at that time, we didn't have an answering machine, so it would just continue to ring and ring and ring until the operator picked up. Because I wanted my mom to come and pick me up from this place that she had left me. I can recall this one time, guys, my mother dropped me off. My mother dropped me off at this guy's house. He was pretty friendly. I thought everything was okay. I started to let my guard down. I said, you know what? Maybe this is somebody that I can look up to and somebody that'll be a father figure to me. Guys, I let my trust down, and as I started to get closer to this guy, I'm now being taken advantage of. I'm being sexually abused by a man that I thought I could look up to and be a father figure. Absolutely crushed. I had so much anger. As my mom would continue to drop me off to this place, I was so ashamed. I did not want anybody to know. I did not want to tell my mom. My mom could never figure out why I would be crying and screaming and holding her for dear life not to drop me off at this person's place. This went on for a few years. Finally, we moved away from that. We moved away from that area, moved into another bad neighborhood. Fast forward a little bit more, I'm now a teenager, guys. And there's a lot of teenagers here. What do we want to do? We want to fit in. We want confirmation for our friends that we're cool. Guys, I would go to the food court. I would often go to the food court, and because I didn't know where my next meal was, I'd often sit off to the side. And as I'm sitting off to the side, I'm watching other people eat. And these other people are eating. I'm sitting there praying that they won't throw their leftover food away, because that leftover food was going to be my next meal. That's how I was going to eat. That's how I was going to eat. Guys, I can recall numerous times stealing from secondhand stores. I know there's an RCMP officer in here. Don't come up and get me, okay? I said hi to you for a reason earlier. But these were things, guys, that I was doing just to fit in. Throughout this all, I could have had so much hardship. I could have had so much hatred towards my mother, but I did not. I never had any hatred towards my mother. I loved my mother through this whole process. All I really wanted was to be loved. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit more, guys. I'm now into high school. I'm playing high school football. I'm being heavily recruited by Division I schools, a few Division I schools in the States willing to give me a full ride scholarship. A full ride scholarship. I could have went to any school in Canada that I wanted to go. Guys, I messed it up. I talked earlier about making choices. We all have choices that we have to make in life. I started making the wrong choice. At the age of 17, I wasn't living with my mom at that time because she was so heavily in her addiction. I moved in with this other family. And I decided to, you know what, I don't need school. These universities will find some way to get me in. Guys, that wasn't the case. I turned to drugs, I turned to alcohol. Boom. My childhood dream, guys, I'm gonna say it back just a little bit. My childhood dream was to play professional football. But my childhood dream was being taken away from me because of choices that I made. I knew that I did not want to become a product of my environment. I knew that I was going to be better. I was going to be better than my father that I had never even met. And I knew I was going to be better than what my mom could provide me with. So boom, I'm a very, 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 very firm believer. That door closed, guys. I'm a firm believer. One door closes, another one opens. But in order to open that next door, we had to use a little muscle. And that's exactly what I had to do. I had to go to summer school. Absolutely sucked. I hated summer school. Boom. I did it. I'm finally getting ready to go play, go to university. I get a phone call from my hometown team. The Penticton Eskimos called me up, said, JR, we want to give you an opportunity. And this is who I found out who my real friends were, guys. As I'm overwhelmed with joy, I'm telling my friends, hey, I got a call from the Penticton Eskimos. They want to bring me into camp. They want to allow me to try out for the team. They looked at me in the face and said, JR, you haven't even been to university. This is unheard of. We don't think you're big enough. You don't think you're fast enough. Guys, you need to gut check. You need to check your friends. The people that you're surrounding yourself with. Are they people that want to see you succeed, or are they people that want to hold you back? Because in so many cases, our friends, people that we think are real friends, want to hold us back. You guys need to hang out with people that want to see you succeed. So, as these people were saying all this stuff to me, I started to doubting myself, and I said, you know, maybe I'm not good enough. My one friend pulled me aside and said, JR, if the Eskimos didn't think you were good enough, they wouldn't have made the phone call. I said, you know, you're absolutely right. I'm going to prove these people wrong. all my so-called friends that are now haters, I'm gonna prove them wrong. All this negativity, all this craziness that they're talking about, saying that I wouldn't do, I'm gonna use that to motivate myself. I'm gonna allow that to fuel the fire within to prove those people wrong. Guys, in 2005, that's exactly what I got the opportunity to do. I play on defense. Very first game, I made the quarterback threw the ball, I stepped in front, boom, picked it off. The crowd went absolutely nuts. There were probably about 40,000 people that went absolutely crazy. It was the best. I'll remember that moment for the rest of my life. They went crazy, but more importantly, my friends and family got to enjoy that moment, and the people that doubted me, the people that said I wouldn't be able to do it, they were all able to see me on the big screen, and I put the haters, put them to rest. Shut up the haters, shut them up. That's what I did. Halfway through that season, guys, the media was calling me the hometown hero. I started to believe the hype. I started to think that I was invincible. Halfway through that year, the coach brought me in. I wasn't training as hard anymore. The coach brought me in and said, JR, we're going to cut you, we're going to release you, we're going to send you back down to the junior team. I was absolutely crushed. I've never been cut from anything in my life. I went back down to junior football. The thing that hurt the most, though, in 2005, the Edmonton Eskimos went on to win the Grey Cup. I missed out on an opportunity, a childhood dream of mine to hoist the Grey Cup. I missed out on that opportunity because of a choice that I made. I couldn't blame anybody else, nobody else. It was choices that I made. Remember, I talked about being a firm believer, one door closes, another one opens. I got another opportunity in 2006. The Eskimos said, JR, we want to bring you back in. We want to give you another opportunity. I was going to seize the moment. I did not want to wait for my moment to pass by. I wasn't going to let that happen again. I grabbed onto it. I said, boom, I'm going to change all my old habits. I'm going to start doing positive things in my life. And more importantly, I'm going to make my people proud, because as a professional athlete, you get put in the spotlight. There's two things you can do being put in the spotlight. You can be a role model, or you can be a jerk. And I didn't want to be a jerk. I wanted to inspire young people. I wanted to inspire people that have the same walk, are going through the same things that I've gone through, and say, hey, there is hope, there is a brighter future, there is light at the end of the tunnel. That's exactly what I did, guys. In 2006, I made the Edmonton Eskimos. I was the youngest starter. I was 21 years old, starting in my hometown. It was a great experience. A few years later, 2008, we're playing against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I'm wrestling with my guy. I get hit from the side, boom, snap my leg. Snapped it right in half. Boom, yeah, it was bad. Bone was sticking out, my leg was dangling, so this is my leg. My leg was down there, my bone was out here. Absolutely disgusting. The doctor said, JR, we don't think you will play football again. Well, I'm gonna tell you something. I got a very hard time with people telling me I can't do something. It took me a year and a half to get back to where I wanted to be. 3 surgeries later, boom, I went back to the Edmonton Eskimos. I said, I'm healed. Will you guys give me another opportunity? They said, JR, we're not going to give you another chance. We think you're a little older now, and you might be an injury risk. I was hurt. That was my hometown team. That was a team that I thought I'd finish my career off with. Guys, I flew out to BC on my own dime. I called up the BC Lions. I knew they were having an open camp. I came out here. I worked out for them. Boom, a week later, they sent me a contract. I signed with the team. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit more. Boom. I make the team in 2010. Our second last game of the season, we're playing against my old team, the Edmonton Eskimos. And I'm gonna tell you guys something. I might seem like a nice guy now, but when I'm on the field, I like to flip the switch. I like to talk trash. I'm a big trash talker. And so I'm signing off by the sidelines, by the Edmonton Eskimo bench, and my back is to them. Did you see that? But as my back is towards them, I look over and I see the group of doctors that said I would never play football again. Look at me now. I'm back. And I'm talking trash again to a bunch of my former teammates. Guys, I'll remember this moment, the very first play of the game. I'm blocking my man. I get tied up. A guy falls on my ankle. Boom. Break it again. Exactly. Yeah, it sucked. Break it again. The crazy part about it is the doctor said I would never break that leg again. Those damn doctors know. So the coach pulls me in the office, end of the season. Coach brings me into the office and said, JR, this is the same leg you broke. We don't know if you're going to be able to come back from this. We're going to allow you to rehab here, but we might have to move on without you. I said, okay, coach. It comes down to this, though. I have a hard time with people telling me I can't do something. It took me 6 months. 6 months, I was back at it. I rehabbed my leg. Boom. The coach is blown away by my progress. He brings me in the office and said, JR, we want to give you an opportunity. We're blown away. We want you to be our starting safety. Boom, I'm back to my starting spot. 2011 comes around, training camp. I'm in my last preseason game. We're playing against the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. I go in to make a tackle. I hit the guy, break my forearm. I mean, I know you guys think like, dude, you need to drink some milk. Need to put some more bear grease on it or something. Boom, I broke my arm. I was out for 5 weeks. I was like, can I get a break? Not really. Coming back after that 5th week, guys, when I was ready to come back, I experienced one of the hardest things that I've ever experienced in my life. Okay? Actually, I'm gonna back it up just a little bit. Prior to that, to me coming back, my mother was visiting me. And she came up. So this is after I broke my leg. The second time she came to look after me, and I couldn't do anything with my broken leg. So, as a grown man, to have your mother bathe you is something special. Okay, I wasn't comfortable with it, but hey, Mama had to wash me up. But guys, the thing that I always remember, okay, when I was a kid, I have 2 boys. When I was a kid, my mother never got down on her knees to play with me. I never even knew what that looked like. My mother was at my house, and as I'm walking down the hallway, I go peek into my son's room. And what do I see? I see my mom. And my mom is sitting there on her hands and knees, playing with my 2 boys. Guys, it was such a special moment because as a kid, I wanted that so bad. But to see her giving back, loving my sons, how I knew she wanted to love me was something that was so special. So I want to encourage you guys, don't hold grudges against your parents, no matter what it is that they do. We all go through our circumstances, our different situations, whatever it is, but love the people that brought you into this world. You got to do it. You got to do it. But a few months after my mom was down in Vancouver visiting me, I got some very, very bad news. This is back at week 5 where I'm coming back from my arm injury. The assistant general manager pulls me aside and says, JR, you need to come to my office. Practice didn't even finish. And I'm telling you, there's a few things that happen when the general manager comes to pull you from practice. You've either been traded or you're getting cut. And I was like, oof, well, I'm coming from injury. They can't trade me. I was like, oof, they really can't cut me, so what's the problem? He brings me into his office and said, JR, we got terrible news. We just found out that your mother passed away. Guys, I was absolutely crushed. Me and my mother's relationship was becoming so strong. My mother had been clean for a few years at that point. And it was the happiest and healthiest that I'd seen my mom, but because of her addictions, it had got the best of her. She passed away. I dedicated the rest of that season to my mother. I don't know if you guys followed our season in 2011, but we started off 0-5. Absolutely terrible. The 6th week, I came back from injury. Not saying it's because of me, but I'm just saying. Guys, we went on from there to win the next, I don't know if it was, next 11 games. We turned the season around. It was the greatest turnaround in football history. Yeah. It was. The greatest turnaround in sports history. We went on to be first place in the league. We went on, boom, Grey Cup. Yeah. But guys, I took so much pride in being First Nation in front of millions of people. I wanted the whole world in front of millions of people, I wanted our people to know that through hard work, dedication, anything, absolutely anything is possible. Guys, I was a kid that was being sexually abused. I grew up without a father. My mother was a drug addict. I had every excuse to give up and quit. I am here today to tell you guys to dream big, dream huge. Don't let anybody ever tell you you can't do something. Because I'm living proof that dreams really do come true. Thank you, guys.